Hey, how about helping me dig out a buried treasure I've kept for so long? Well, that's what's in today's story. And I hope you're feeling strong, because it's pretty deep. Tell me, what do you think of when you hear the term buried treasure? Pirate, the sea, a map with an X on it as to where to dig it up? To me, it's an entirely different perspective. What I would like to share with you is a treasure from the heart, one that's remained with me at all times. But one part of it actually was buried. Care to hear it? Well, about when I was 7 years old, it was a nice summer, but our family had spent it in Canada, a small town in Ontario. We spent it with our in-laws and very nice people, got along with everyone just fine. And the only one problem is that there was really nobody my age amongst my relatives there, and I had to make do on my own. I remember the environment out there was just a lot of streets, a lot of buildings without names on them, a lot of crowded houses as well. But to make do, I just walked about, and one day I just went downtown and had seen the only sign to signify a business. It was right at the corner, dividing two streets. That sign was a Pepsi sign, and the only thing to signify that it was a grocery store. So the first thing I thought of was, oh, hey, a pack of M&Ms. Great. So I walked down that street, of course. I know it wasn't too wise walking downtown alone, but it was safer then. And besides, so many years ago. As I continued down the street towards this grocery store, I remember just opening the door. It had, of course, that bell, jing, jing, when your first entrance. And it was an entirely different environment altogether. It was incredible. Now, when you're 7 years old, you can't rightly say, oh, it's an Asian market or it's an Indian market or whatnot. Let's just say it's all foreign at that time. What was amazing about it is just how many things were inside. My mind was completely off the M&Ms by this time. The Victorian rug on the walls, all the souvenirs. It was like an indoor yard sale, or flea market for that matter. And I remember just seeing all the articles and trinkets for sale, from hookahs to incense. I think I even seen a couple of whoopee cushions to boot. Anyway, I was amazed with the colors and all of the silverware and everything that just was so foreign to me. And there was a gentleman actually at the counter, assumably the clerk, had walked over and just stood beside me, and he seemed to be amused at my fascination. He started talking to me as though that I was in a documentary, explaining the origin and the history behind each of the articles that I was holding. I found it so interesting that I was literally lifting things off of the wall, holders that I wasn't even interested in, but I loved to hear him talk. You just hear him talk, talk, talk. And that's what he did. He introduced himself as Carlos. Of course, I introduced myself. Yes, hello. I'm Sterling, visiting relatives and blah, blah, blah. And, hey, a friendship had started. I came the next day, and it's when he just kind of more opened up far as his family, he was married. He had a lovely wife and a 1-year-old daughter who was really cute when he had shown me his wallet. And also, I remember a time that I paid a visit to the store and I went to a liquor store and I picked up 2 bottles of birch beer. And of course, I thought, it's got to be beer. We're both men. We'll have a toast. We'll drink like men. When I brought them in his store, because he didn't market them, he was amused by it, and he even played the role. We clicked the bottles, this for men. Little things like that, you just don't forget. And, of course, just like everything, all good things come to an end soon enough, in spite of how many times I'd visit the store and look forward to it each day, meeting this gentleman who seemed to be very kind and trusting. When I went and I told Carlos that I was be leaving back the United States in just a couple of days, I don't remember how he'd taken it, but I do remember that he had positioned me in front of the trinkets up for sale and just said, help yourself. Whatever you like is yours. And there were just so many things I literally couldn't decide. It was like trying to decide on an ice cream cone from, the ice cream man. It had a zillion flavors. But anyway, I made it simple because I really was appreciative. I went and I picked up this articulated gold-colored fish, metallic, that had red eyes. Now, I think some of you just might know what I mean. Now, this is vintage. This is from many years ago. I don't know if it's on the market these days. Who knows? We might even find out later. But at the time, it became priceless to me when I held it in my hand, and I kept it upon me. And it's at the end of that day, he was closing shop. He invited me to his place, and I met his wife, and we had dinner. I don't exactly remember what we had for dinner. I know I ate it, and his little daughter actually was sitting in a high chair, and she was pretty as ever. His wife put her off to bed, and Carlos and I had chatted a bit, and soon after that, we went to his daughter's bedroom. And I remember, amongst 2 sentences, the first one that I remember even hearing his voice and what he had said, it was regarding his daughter when we were looking in her crib. And that was, one day, you two will marry. And I was amused by that. All I could think of was, well, it's a little bit too soon now, that's of course. But after that, I went and we had a few words and shook his hand, and I was off. Of course, he said something very precious to me that I'll get to you in just a moment. But when I left, I remember I still had the articulated fish keychain, actually it was, and I kept that on me for the entire ride home and did my best even at home. Unfortunately, my best wasn't the best because after I got home, just less than 2 weeks afterwards, I misplaced it. I know, what are you going to do? But life goes on, and so did I. And it wasn't until a few months, if not a half a year, went by after that. And it is to where that it was spring the following year. And I was sitting on a fence with my friend who lived nearby, and the fence was right in the center between my back lawn and a large field. So not only large, and lengthy in an area, but also tall. And I just remember my friend just lifting up the piece, the fish keychain, and I was shocked. I had to just blurt it out because I had to grab it. I just said, "That's mine." As soon as I said that, what does he do? He takes the keychain and he flings it, and it goes all the way into the open field, right in the center. Well, you don't have to ask me what I wished had happened to my friend at that moment. But I was just too upset, and also more concerned of is, will I ever see it again? I spent 3 days after that in the spring of that following spring, and the only thing I was able to gather were ticks. Fortunately, as years go by, technology arrives, or furthers itself, that is to say, and I was able to obtain this treasure. For so many years, it was as what I regarded, buried treasure. But through the internet and eBay, I was able to obtain this gift from so many years ago that I got from my friend Carlos. And as I mentioned before, there are two phrases, basically, that I remember hearing Carlos' voice in. One is what he had said when we were at his daughter's crib, and the other was from a Disney movie that came out years afterwards. It's a little mysterious. But like I said, the first thing I ever remember him saying was for his daughter when he said, "One day you two will marry." But the second thing he said, and as I close, is something that I wish to say to my friend Carlos, if by 1 in a million chance you just might be here with us. And that is, goodbye may seem forever. Farewell might be the end. But in my heart is the memory, and there you'll always be. Here's to you, Carlos.